back to another episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia, Week 4 here. I'm your host, Tyler Harper, and with me is a great panel. We got Tommy McIntyre, Jordan Green, and, oh, look at that, Andrew Albert's here to join us. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on. And, as always, as the story lately, the best story in town, has been the Philadelphia Eagles. Not the best, though, last week, getting their first loss of the season to the 49ers. If we could see that recap graphic. A 26-21 loss. Niners evening their record to 500. Birds falling to 3-1. Colin Kaepernick 17 for 30. 2 touchdown passes, an interception. That interception returned by Malcolm Jenkins for a touchdown. And Darren Sproles just lining it up again. 82-yard punt return for a TD. So let's start with those two. And, of course, there was the Brad Smith recovery of the block punt in the end zone for a touchdown. 21 points. The Eagles had 0 points for their offense. This offense was supposed to be one of the most dominant offenses in this league. I mean, obviously, this is their first bump in the road. It's their first loss. But it's a little concerning that 21 points by your defense and special teams and you don't get a win, right?
No, it's really bad. Nick Foles is just really out of sync right now. You thought after the Washington game he would really get it back together, but he's just been overthrowing guys left and right. I mean, he had Macklin. He even had Cooper a couple times, and he's just overthrowing them. Obviously, the running game still been terrible. I think Shane McCoy like 10 carries for like nothing, and Darren Sproles had only 1 carry. You have to give Darren Sproles the ball if LaShawn McCoy's not doing anything. So it was just it was a tough loss, especially since defense and special teams played so well.
Yeah, they had no business being in that game. When the defense and the special teams, I know we just said this, but when the defense and special teams spots you 20 points, you have to win. And when you look at this team, scoring close to 30 points a game, breaking all sorts of records, and I mean, that's their identity, scoring a lot of points. But for them to come up that short and to cross the 50-yard line, once, twice, it's a surprise to me. This team just needs to find their identity. I know they're struggling along the offensive line, but I mean, it's not just the players either. Chip didn't necessarily call his best games. I thought the taking the penalty after they were going to get off the field on 3rd down was a big mistake because Kaepernick ran for it. They could have stole the game.
Andrew, what do you think?
I mean, like you said, that they had no business being in this game, but what's good about it is they were in the game when it came down to the end. They were this close, Riley Cooper, away from winning that football game, which they had no business being. And so that's a positive that you look at. But their offense was dreadful, and it all comes back to the offensive line. Their blocking schemes are all out of sorts right now, and that's just because there's a lot of guys injured, a lot of guys out. You can't really account for that. You don't know going into the season that that's going to happen, so it's hard to work on a short week going all the way across to the West Coast. I don't take too much out of that game. I'm not ready to fire Chip yet like some people. It's his first loss of the season. I think that once they get their offensive line back and their feet back under them, they'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, of course, you and Jordan mentioned those decisions, but by Chip, obviously hindsight's 2020, and yes, you're right, it is their first loss. But I mean, you got to look at those interesting choices. First, we'll look at the decision to accept the penalty and let the Niners try again instead of declining and just having them try for the field goal. Andrew, I guess we'll start with you. Was that the right move?
Yeah, I didn't get it. I was confused when it happened. I was like, wait, did he really not? He accepted that penalty because they could have gotten off the field. I mean, you always want to get your defense off the field, especially when they've been on the field for that long because your offense is so dreadful in a game like that. Mm-hmm. So I was just confused by it. I don't know his reasoning behind it. I didn't actually hear anything about why he did it, but there's really no excuse for me personally. I mean, you're coaching the NFL, you got to know the situation. I'm not going to blame him. I don't know what was going on, who was in his ear, who's talking to who. I mean, we're not on the sideline. We don't know what's going through their heads. So
that's true.
I'm not one to criticize about what I don't know.
Jordan?
This game had my blood pressure racing. It left me speechless. We didn't even mention when they got down to the 1-yard line.
We're getting to it.
I thought for sure that – I know I'm doing it wrong, but I thought for sure they were going to win this game. I mean, the catch by Macklin, I thought they were going to pull it out.
Beautiful catch, too.
Yeah, I thought they were going to pull it out again, another comeback. But hopefully this loss will build some character because there were some good things, like we said, the defense, the special teams, but they can't keep falling behind in games. They can't keep leaving plays out on the field. It's not all on Foles, but certain throws you just can't afford to miss. So there's a lot of good that could come from this game. But nevertheless, the Cowboys are right there with them now. So hopefully they'll step their game up a little bit.
How about you, Tommy?
Yeah, going back to the penalty that he accepted, I mean, I think it's just Chip Kelly's kind of like he hurts himself in a lot of ways. I think he tries to outsmart himself. He tries to do things like, oh, I'm just going to do me or the highway. I don't really care what anybody else tries to do, and that's how his mindset always been. And I think obviously we've seen that hurt him because they wound up scoring a touchdown, I believe you said, on that drive. And
Yeah, they accepted the third down, and Colin Kaepernick just ran around the entire defense.
so it's just like just outsmarting yourself in a sense. It's just do the easy play. Decline it, they kick a field goal, we're down by 3, but we have more time on the clock. And then going down to the goal line, I mean, you have LaShawn McCoy, he gets a 5-yard run. They put themselves right there, yard and a half away from the goal line. I think you got to run it again there. I mean, even if you give it to Sproles. Sproles had 1 carry this whole game. Sproles. Like, how do you give it? He was the NFC Player of the Week again, or a Special Teams Player of the Week? You got to give him the ball. He's a playmaker. At least give it to him. I mean, it's just we had nothing passing on those couple plays down there, and you got to score there.
Got to run the ball, right, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I can't put it all on Chip for the play call, because if you look, the linebackers are pretty, they're pretty backed off. So you would think like a more experienced quarterback might just check it.
Might audible out of it?
Yeah, just decide to hand the ball off. You're at the 1. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut and what you see. I'm sure Chip gives them enough freedom to, make that call, but it's in the past. The pass play was still there to Selleck. Shady just got to make that block, and Nick's got to make that throw. And maybe we're talking about a different scenario. We didn't mention the Riley Cooper drop. I hate being negative because we're just blasting everybody today, but hey, we got to put it all out there. The Riley Cooper drop was critical too, because at all the throws Foles missed, that throw hit him dead.
That was the best throw of the day.
Yeah,
right in the end zone.
Start a wide receiver, you got to make that throw.
Right on the numbers.
Yeah, I think they got to run that ball on 3rd down. I have no problem with them throwing it on 4th down, but
Yeah.
I think they have to run it on 3rd down. But once again, I'm not going to criticize Chip Kelly because he knows a lot more about football than I do. I'm gonna
I think he knows more about football than the 4 of us combined.
Exactly.
No,
so
not
what he sees.
Oh, okay.
What he sees from his offensive line, we don't probably see. We don't understand that. So he saw them getting no push. He saw that the zone blocking schemes weren't working. So maybe he tried to catch them off guard. I'm just trying to get in Chip's mind, which no one can do. But
Good luck.
Maybe catch him off guard on 3rd down, throw the ball, and now it's 4th down. You have to throw the ball. He was open. I mean, it was a good. I hate that rollout play though. Don't get me started.
Oh yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like how you line 3 guys up. I mean, you can at least swing one guy to the backside just in case. Like if you saw the Frank Gore play, swing one guy to the backside, maybe he's open.
Frank Gore wasn't even supposed to be in that play. We'll get to him in a little bit, but
so I think they just overstack their options there because I mean even if you're just drawing the defense to one side of the field instead of all the guys are on one side of the field. There's a whole other side open that I mean it seems awful simple, but that's just what it comes down to. You can't flood one side, especially from the 1.5, 2 yard line.
not only that, and like also on that play too, the 4th down pass attempt, you had James Casey there. I mean, I know James Casey barely doing anything,
Right,
and
you got to give him a shot to catch the ball.
Exactly.
You got to give him a shot
and
to
even
get in the end zone.
And even if you don't think he's going to go into the end zone, you've got to at least give him that shot to take the ball and just try to pass.
Right, but Shady's got to get in the end zone on that 5-yard run.
Yeah.
He's got to get in the end zone on that. And I mean, last year he would have. There's no doubt in my mind. There's something wrong with Shady, and we don't know what.
Speaking of Brent Selleck, I mean, he's only had 3 catches so far, or 15 yards. I mean, he's been more used in a blocking role, which is interesting. I'm not sure if the torch has been passed to Ertz, but does it worry you that Selleck's not involved in more passing plays, or that Foles is missing him a little bit?
I mean, we've seen this in the past. I mean, before the Chip Kelly days when our offensive line just implodes and we have no one, you have to keep another guy back there to help blocking. And Brent Selleck has shown that he's a terrific blocker. And Ertz is not. And Ertz is, I mean, Brent Selleck, you put both of them together, if Brent Selleck doesn't have to block at all, Brent Selleck's going to make good plays as well because he's a really good tight end. But Ertz isn't one of the best blockers. And so they put him out on the wide as like a receiver, and he's a really good receiver. So I think that's why Brent Selleck is not seeing any catches right now. And also, I mean, Nick Foles has not been the greatest.
Exactly. I think Selleck has had opportunities, but again, when they're there, you got to hit them. I think the guard has been passed to an extent because Ertz looks really good when he's had the opportunities. We saw the start he got off to in the first 2 games slowed down a little bit, but I don't necessarily think it's Selleck per se. We know when you call his number, he usually comes through for you.
Yeah, Ertz is just a better receiving tight end, flat out, and Selleck's a better blocking tight end, so they're going to play to their strengths. If they're going to pass the ball to a tight end, it's going to be to Ertz. If they're going to block with a tight end, it's going to be Selleck. So it's just all game planning.
All right, now we look at our SDP Player of the Week. First week, it's not an Eagle. It is Frank Gore instead. 24 carries, 119 yards, One touchdown catch again on that play where Kaepernick scrambled to the side, just found Gore standing there thinking he was out of the play.
And Earl Wolf thought it was touch football.
Yeah. Fourth straight 100-plus yard rushing game against the Eagles for Frank Gore. Does Frank Gore just have the Eagles' number?
I mean, it seems like it. It was. I mean, our defense against the run has been poor all year, and I mean, and it showed again. And he's had our number in games in the past seasons, but I mean, that one play when they just throw it to him, he's out of the play. Marcus Smith misses a tackle. I mean, missed his coverage, and Earl Wolf misses the tackle, whiffs on him basically, and you just can't even let that happen. He wasn't even in the play. It's just like it was really bad, and he had us all game really.
Yeah, every year you kind of expect Gore to decline and maybe another young running back to take his place because they always stockpile different running backs. I forget the guy's name, but they have Carlos Hyde and the other guy they just drafted. That sat on the bench for all. But anyway, again, every year you expect his decline. And we saw that's probably why the 49ers struggled the first few games. I said I think they get back to Frank Gore because Kaepernick wasn't really able to put the team on his back. So I think they leaned on Gore a little bit more, and I think it worked to their advantage. So.
Yeah, not only that, but keep in mind earlier in the week, too, he was the one who called for more carries. And then, of course, he apologized for it in the media, but I mean, he got some more carries, and against a weakened Eagles defense, he was able to take advantage.
Yeah, they knew the front seven for the Eagles is depleted, and with Michael Kendricks being out, I mean, honestly, he's the key to the defense.
Trent Richardson at 100 yards.
Yeah, their run defense is bad. We'll put it that way. So they knew what they were getting into. They're going to give Frank Gore more touches, especially because it seems like the Eagles defense has a better time defending shiftier backs, and when it's big, more fullback style, halfback style guys that they just can't tackle them for some reason. I mean, the tackling has been poor. I mean, you look at Earl Wolf.
We got Casey Matthews in there, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's probably the best linebacker in the league, in my opinion.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's not good. But
his brother's good.
He tried.
Right. I think if Michael Kendricks is in there, it's a completely different ballgame. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think he's my number one key to this defense. It just starts with the front seven.
Yeah, Tommy, talk about how much it hurts that Michael Kendricks isn't there right now, and even worse, he could miss a couple more games.
Yeah, no, it's really not good. His ability to really get in the box and rush the quarterback as well. I mean, he has a great ability to really get sacks as a linebacker, and you're really missing that. I mean, he's not only good in coverage, but he's even better coming up, running, staying in the box, and tackling running backs and getting pressure on the quarterback. So he is, like Andrew was saying, he is a huge key. And not having him, we're seeing the ill effects.
And there's no Rihanna factor. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, thank God. Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about playmakers, we typically think about the offensive side of the ball. But the playmakers on the defensive side of the ball that the Eagles do have, it doesn't necessarily work to their advantage because of the different circumstances. Boykin is a slot corner. He's rated as the #1 slot corner in the league right now. And he's only playing about 30% of the snaps. Vinny Curry doesn't really fit the scheme. Brandon Graham's getting more playing time, but he's not a great scheme fit. And then Kendricks, he's out right now, and they're really missing him, obviously. So it's kind of hurting the defense. I guess they're hanging in there, but at the end of the day, you need playmakers. It's about talent. We always talk about scheme, but Kendricks is arguably their most talented player, and they need him right now.
Him and Malcolm Jenkins.
Ooh, Malcolm Jenkins is
Yeah,
ball.
get to that in a little bit. But you bring up playmakers. One playmaker that's almost been invisible these first 4 games. Let's bring it up. LaShawn McCoy. You see there his stats, obviously last year having the career year. So obviously this isn't a fair comparison of 70 rushes, 192 yards, and a touchdown. But Shady hasn't been himself these first 4 games. Let's be real here. And now that you're a fourth of the way through the season, how concerned should we be at this point?
I mean, it's very concerning, but I mean, once again, the offensive line is really depleted right now. And I think that's a reason why Shady looks like he's trying to do too many jukes. He's really trying to go east-west. Really, he just got to go north-south. He's got to hit the hole, go try to find some hole when there really isn't any. I mean, we don't have a center. We're moving Herman's over to right tackle when he's a guard. It's like there's a bunch of stuff going on. We're getting Lane Johnson back, which is hopefully going to help. But I'm worried for sure. And I think if the way LaShawn McCoy's playing, you got to give Sproles a little bit more carries.
Was he on like the cover of Madden? Did I miss something? But no, honestly, I don't think it's Shady. I think he reported in the camp in great shape. He's really dedicated. I don't really worry about him getting lazy. I know he's getting all sorts of media attention. He's doing commercials, but I don't think it's because he's not working hard. Maybe just from a mental standpoint, he's pressing a little bit. I think he does need to just keep it to one cut and then get downhill instead of trying to dance all the time. But I think it just comes down to the line. You don't go from 1,600 yards rushing, leading the league in rushing, winning the rushing title, to just this and performing really poorly. I wanted him on my fantasy team. I guess it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, having him on a fantasy team's not doing any well right now.
I mean,
Take
I'm
it from
a
me.
big fan of Shady, but again, I'm not sure how much is. Again, he got dinged in that Redskins game. That might have something to do with it. So, I mean, I think he'll improve. The Rams' run defense is pretty poor. So,
Yeah,
Andrew, what's going on with Shady?
I think it's part him, part the line. He's not as decisive this year. Clearly, like last year, you could see he knew where he was going to cut back, and he knew where he was going to start heading downhill, like you said. But this year, he just doesn't. He doesn't know where he's going, and I think that's because of the offensive line, because it's in his head that the offensive line, this isn't the offensive line of last year, and I don't know where my blockers are going to be. He's not comfortable with this offensive line. So it's part him mentally, and it's part not having those same guys. I mean, last year, the offensive line spent 98% of the season snaps together on the field.
Oh, yeah,
that's
healthy the
huge.
entire
That's
year.
unbelievable. That's unheard of. So this year, now it's 4 different guys in there.
Now it's the polar opposite.
Exactly. He doesn't know where he's going with the football, and that's not good. It's not. I don't want to say he's trying to do too much, but he doesn't know where his cutbacks are going to be like he did last year.
Yeah, I mean, but real quick, going down the line, do you think it's something else? I don't want to believe it's his ego, but we heard him all off-season saying he's the best running back in the league, and I mean, he had the rushing title, so he's entitled to believe that. But I'm wondering if he's buying into his own hype. Andrew, do you want to comment real quick?
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's just he's just not himself right now, and I think it's mental. It's not his ego. I mean, every NFL player has an ego, whether
That's
you choose to
true.
believe it or not. They're the best at what they do.
That's
Everyone
true.
has an ego, so you just got to. He knows how to control it. He knows how to separate that on the football field.
All right, and speaking of egos, let's try to outbest each other in our picks, although it's kind of hard in the prediction poll this week because we all picked the Eagles, guys. I'm going with a lower scoring game, actually, 27 birds. And riding the hot hand, I'm going with Malcolm Jenkins as my standout star. I mean, 3 weeks with consecutive interceptions, the one running it back for a touchdown. I'm not saying he's going to get a pick again necessarily, but against a Rams offense that, let's face it, isn't the best offense around, I think Malcolm Jenkins will be able to continue his role. Tommy, 27-24 birds, riding your hot hand to Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy Maclin is the one guy today we haven't bashed because he's actually been the best guy on the field. He's been awesome, and he would be one of the best receivers in the league if Nick Foles could actually hit him and not overthrow him. And it's just he's been really solid, and I think he's going to continue that. And it's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be easy. I mean, 20-7, I don't know. Austin Davis, that guy's come in, and he's played pretty well. So it's going to be a tough game.
Jordan Green, you picked the Eagles to win 27-17, and you're banking on LaShawn McCoy as your MVP.
look, they're the 30th ranked rush defense. LaShawn McCoy is still a very talented runner. I think he's going to break out a little bit. I think the Rams will still manage to score some points, but I think the Eagles are going to be hungry in this game to rebound from the loss last week.
All right, and Andrew Albert, 37-21. Nick Foles is your MVP.
Yeah, I think it's a huge bounce back game. I think he goes for 400 yards, 4 TDs. Yeah, put me down for that. Bold, I know, but he needs a good game. I think the Rams is a pretty decent team to do it against.
All right, and that'll do it for Eagles Talk as the Eagles take on the Rams this Sunday. But we move on, and we're finally wrapping on those Philadelphia Phillies. Woo. Final Phillies talk of maybe close to 2014. I mean, free agency, who knows? But let's throw up the graphic of how the Phillies finished. I'm guessing it wasn't that great. 73, 89, last in the NL East, 242 batting average, 10th in the NL, 3.79 ERA, 12th in the NL. What went wrong, or rather, what went right? This was a tough year.
I mean, going into the year, you were hoping that they would be a little bit. You were hoping they would be healthy, and they actually
So
were.
was Ruben Amaro Jr.
They were healthy for the most part. Think about it, though. They really weren't that really depleted in terms of like J-Roll was healthy, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley was healthy. They just aren't as good as they used to be. It's just names now, and it's just their offense did not step up as they needed, and I didn't really think they really made any moves that could help them on the offensive side this offseason. And then you saw the depletion of Don Brown, which was how do you go from all-star to being you should not even be in the league anymore for how bad he was playing. And Ryan Howard did not play well at all. And in terms of right, I think the one thing we have to take away from the season, bullpen. The bullpen is actually solid. And I think that's the one thing. You got some young guys in there. I think Papelbon's probably going to be going next year. But in terms of the young guys like Giles and Diekman, those guys are good. So I think if you want to look at anything, the silver lining is that our bullpen has a decent future.
Jordan, your thoughts on the 2014 Phillies? It's tough, right?
Yeah, see, again, not too many positive things to say. This decline has kind of been going on for a while. I think the Phillies management is starting to see it themselves, hopefully, and they get some new life in here. But I mean, some of your veterans were a bright spot. Hamels played really well. He brought it just about every night, whether he had the run support or not. But I think the frustration really started to manifest in this team. You kind of look in the dugout and they just seem really frustrated. We saw Papelbon go off a couple times. Revere played pretty well. I like what I saw from Giles, but they're going to have to make some moves, and no matter what, I think it's going to be a while before we see them.
Well, they actually did make an office move. No, they didn't fire Ruben Amaro Jr. I know what you're thinking. Don't get too excited. No, instead they fired Marty Wolliver, assistant GM and director of scouting since 2001. So, I mean, we've all been pointing to the scouting as the problem, guys.
Yeah, have you seen their farm system? It's awful.
Yeah, exactly. And go on that. Talk about how good this changes for Phillies fans.
I don't know how good it is.
Well, how good it'll.
I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know who they're going to bring in. But, I mean, the minor league system for the Phillies is completely depleted. They have maybe 5-6 guys that could. I mean, J.P. Crawford is going to be an all-star in 5 years. There's no doubt about it. He's the shortstop of the future. I mean, you saw Ken Giles run through. They have guys like Kelly Dugan and Aaron Altherr that can really be good players in the next 3 to 4 years, and Aaron Nola is going to be a stud in the MLB.
J.P. Crawford's going to be good too.
Yeah, he's going to be an all-star in 5 years. Yeah, that's right. But I think it's time to clean house with the big squad. I think they just got to. They're going to have to eat $30-40 million worth of Howard's contract to get rid of him. They have to. The Phillies front office, when it comes to the team right now, they're in denial. They're still in 07, 08, 09. They're still in that mindset, and they're just
glory days.
They're not there. It's not there, and it's not working. Tickets. And they're trying to sell tickets. They didn't want to do a complete rebuild because they won't put fans in the seats, but fans aren't going to be in the seats anyways.
It's true.
And you've seen it. There's maybe 10,000-15,000 people in the beautiful ballpark in South Philly. I mean, it's one of the gems of the MLB.
It really is.
And to see a decline like this in a front office not willing to accept the reality of what's going on with their team and how bad they are and how bad their farm system is, it's actually sad. And I'm not even a Phillies fan.
That's true. We'll get to that a little later in the show. But right now we need to talk about a name that was mentioned, and that's Ryan Howard. A lot of people are wondering whether or not he's going to be gone. As you see, bye-bye big piece. He was actually healthy for most of this season, 153 games, 223 batting average, 23 home runs, 95 RBI, and 190 strikeouts. They're going to have to eat a lot of money to do it, but Tommy, we'll start with you. Should they get rid of Big Piece?
I mean, I don't think it should. I think they've been wanting to trade him for a while now. His contract is just too much. I mean, you're talking about he's going to make $20 million next year. I mean, that's a lot of money to try to tell someone to take. So they're definitely going to have to eat a lot of that contract if they want to probably trade him over to, I'm guessing American League, trying to be a designated hitter, because defensively he's definitely going down.
Yankee Stadium, baby.
And you want to see him in a Yankees uniform?
No, I don't want to see him in a Yankees uniform.
Could be a
but
DH.
I mean, he could be. I mean, this is what he is. He's a low 200s hitter with 20-something home runs and high hundreds, over 100 strikeouts. That's what he is. That's what he was last year. It's what he was this year. He's not going to. He's right. He's got Subway. Right. Him and Bret Hart.
Him, RG3, Justin Tuck. They all have Subway.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe that's why they're so bad.
Yeah.
No, but no, he's not going to improve. He's declining. He's not going to. He's not going to be on the uptick. He's not young anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And with that, we move on to our favorite segment here on STP. It's your favorite every week. It's Fast Five time. Andrew, we start with you. Last week we talked about the Ice Girls not being back this season. Change of plans. They're back. Oh, it took us Philly fans booing. Is this a good move by the Flyers, Brass?
I don't know, dude. I don't care. I mean, if it makes the people in the Flyers happy, then let them be. I mean,
might as well pacify the booze when you can.
He's being professional.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm real hyped. No, I don't know. I mean, it's whatever. It's an in-game experience, I guess. Let them have their fun. I mean, I know girls.
You don't like the Ice Girls?
I actually have never noticed the Ice Girls, but that's just me.
That's all right.
All right, moving on. Tommy, over under 30 wins for Steve Mason this year. He had 33 last year.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Right?
I'll say under, just because he was really good last season for most of it, and I mean, it's tough to always think that he's going to match that. So I'll say under, but not that much.
All right, Jordan, more likely to be the Phillies' starting third baseman next year, Cody Asche or Maikel Franco? They've been talking about possibly moving Asche to the outfield.
I think Franco. For whatever reason, they just don't seem to want to get too committed to Asche as, an everyday player, or they want to move him around. It seems as if the fans like Asche a lot more than the Phillies management does. So.
All right, now, Tommy, more likely to make the playoffs, Phillies or Sixers? And I don't mean next year, I mean just first.
Oh man, I don't even. That's. I think the Phillies
Flip a coin, right?
because I mean, as you saw with the Red Sox, how bad they were this year. They went from being really bad to winning a World Series, being really bad again. So it's possible.
Because they cleaned house.
And the Phillies have so much. I mean, they still have. If they can dump some contracts somehow over the next couple of years, I think they can somehow get back to. It's going to be a while, but the Sixers, it's going to be a long time. So.
All right, and final Fast Five question, Andrew Albert. I told you were going to like this one. You're playing the role of Brian Cashman. Obviously, you're shortstop, number 2. He just retired. The Phillies come to you with a package highlighted by Jimmy Rollins. He's somehow cleared this trade. Do you move 1 or 2 prospects and take this deal?
Not a chance.
Not a chance?
Not
Too
a
old?
chance. He's way too old. He's not going to hit 300. I mean, the Yankees have solid enough prospects in their farm system right now where they can cover shortstop. I mean, you saw Jeter barely played the end of the year.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
they did just fine. I mean, the Yankees aren't going to be bad. They're in the same position as the Phillies. I mean, they're hovering over mediocrity, and they're not willing to accept it. But, I mean, Derek Jeter's gone. That's sad. But not Jimmy Rollins is not his replacement.
All right, and that'll do it for us this week here on Sports Talk Philadelphia. But you can hit us up on the web at facebook.com/SportsTalkPhiladelphia. On Twitter, there's LaSalle, at LaSalle TV Philly, LaSalle TV at LaSalle.edu for the email. On YouTube, we are LaSalle 56 TV. And lastly, we are LaSalle.edu/LaSalle TV. That is our webpage. Remember to never stop exploring it. With that, we bid the adieu for this week. For Andrew Albert, Jordan Green, and Tommy McIntyre, I'm Tyler Harper. We'll see you next time.